Here's my review of Predator Killer of Killers. I thought that this movie was awesome. It was basically everything I wanted. And back when Prey came out, and back in 2022, which I thought was awesome, with the Predator going back into like the 1700s, fighting this Native American girl, I couldn't help but think, I was like, wow, yeah, what if you had the Predator go back in time, just going through all these different timelines and different cultures and just fighting these warriors? And that's exactly what this movie is, and it was awesome. Like, there's like, I'm going to talk about all these different stories, and they're kind of connected. I'll talk about that later, but I'm going to talk about them each individually, where we're following all these different characters. And for example, with one of these stories being a World War II fighter pilot, he gets drafted, and in the military, that's when the Predator comes. And it's like, that's awesome. And each one of these are like quick, like 30 minutes. And they're able to tell such an awesome story in this short amount of time. But what makes this so good is like, I really liked this character. I thought he was interesting. And seeing the Predator kill people, like kill all these like these army men in World War II, it was just crazy to see. Like, as he's fighting them in the plane, like, that is just awesome. There's something so, like, I guess a gimmick in a way about here in a lot of the animation in the West, we don't really get that much R-rated animation, so it's just shocking when you finally do, and it just allows that for that extra punch, because you might not even expect it, but it's just awesome. The violence is so over the top and awesome. And just seeing like him fly through the cities in this World War II aircraft, it's just so interesting. Like, in the story, it just feels like it goes like just real quick, but it also feels like it's paced properly in a way where you care about these characters. Where we start off with him just being a mechanic with his family, and then he gets drafted, and it's just like you were able to connect to all these characters. I just found that awesome. Now on to our next story, where we're following this Viking lady in like the year, I think it said like 900. I think her name is Olga, and her son. It just starts off with just like them raiding a village, very reminiscent of the Northmen back in 2022. It was just awesome, and like I keep saying, that's what this movie has done so good. Is all these characters in stories are done so well, where even when the Predator's not in it, like, I'm interested in her and just her son, and her basically raising her son up. That's fascinating. All before we even get the Predator. And it just I just love the animation so much. Each part just looks like a painting. It's just beautiful. And just her raising her son, like, I found that just fascinating. And the Predator, specifically in the Viking story, is just awesome. It is so big. It just has this looming presence, and the climactic battle is just awesome. It allows, because in many ways, because of where we are in time, there's so many different threats for our character in this story, where not only is the Predator, but just the environment. Like, it's cold. At a certain point, she breaks through the ice. There's almost an underwater fight. And there's just so many different elements that all just combine to make this story great. And it was awesome. But what I really just loved about this story in particular is just seeing the character and just the interaction just between mother and son. It was just fascinating. It was compelling. And I feel like, although the original Predator is awesome, and Prey was also awesome, what I really think this movie does so well is, like, it feels like these characters just have so much depth to them. Where, as in the original, for example, it's like, although, I mean, we all love Dutch. He's awesome. Who doesn't love Arnold Schwarzenegger? Like, the character himself, I mean, he's kind of just a generic tough guy, which is awesome. But here in this movie, I mean, there's just so much depth to these characters. At least for me, I've just found them to be really compelling. Especially, like, the Viking storyline. It was awesome. And then we're going on to the last storyline. Well, kind of. where in ancient Japan, this is just what I wanted. This was just so cool because this is another it just shows how strong the writing is because this part of the movie, this whole story doesn't really have much dialogue at all. And it just shows this story of this sibling rivalry that is just so fascinating to see. How they're basically forced by their father to fight each other and just how brutal they were towards each other. And it's like, that's a compelling, like, give me more of just these characters. That was awesome. And this animation style was beautiful. And this sibling rivalry, like, goes through this whole story where it just kind of all culminates in one big battle. And then we have the Predator in here. And, like, that's what makes this movie so good. It's like, you have such compelling stories on top of it being a Predator movie and a Predator story. That's what makes it so awesome. And I love this shot so much. Just the Predator just watching his prey. It was awesome. And this story, the story with the samurais, probably has the most brutal kills in the whole movie. And like I say, it's like seen in animation, it just almost gives it that extra punch because it's like you don't really expect it. But this is still a rated R movie, even though it's animated. This is still very much an R-rated, very gory, very graphic movie. But I think because it's animated, it allows for the kills to be even more creative. Like, they do not hold back on the violence at all. It is just awesome, filled with so many brutal fights with, like, the chains, like, basically just cutting this guy head in half. It's just awesome. Like, the animation here is top tier, and just the action is great. And also, this was another one where it's like the design of the Predator is just awesome. Each one has such a unique, different looking design that it allows each story to feel fresh. And because all these stories are short, because this movie's about an hour and a half, so each one's they're all a little under 30 minutes because of the very end of the movie. It just allows them to go just quick little stories, and the pacing is just on point, and I loved it. But it's really just the characters here in all three of these stories that are just compelling, that allow you to care. It's like you want to see them beat the Predator, and you want to learn more about them. It's just such great character work here. And then at the end, it all just culminates in such an awesome, like, final battle with the Viking, with Joaquin, I believe his name is, World War II fighter pilot, with the samurais. It's just awesome. Like, it just kind of gives you just everything you want, just all in this battle arena. And it's just, wow. And it's stuff like this where it's like, yes, it would be cool to see it in live action, but I think seeing it in animation kind of makes it feel more fluid and, in a way, like, more believable almost, because it's like the animation style can be, it allows for the story to almost, like, make sense because they're all animated similarly. They're all animated similar. It allows for them to kind of flow together so nicely. And it just also ends on a really interesting reveal, which, I mean, I'll just spoil it here, so I'm going to talk about that big reveal right now. So my overall thoughts is I thought this movie was awesome. You should definitely check it out. And as for that reveal, we find out that Amber Midthunder's character from Prey back in 22 is frozen in a cryopod. And I don't really know where they're going with that. I think they're going to be setting up another Alien vs. Predator movie. We got a new Alien series coming out later this year. And we got a new Predator movie coming out later this year in November. I don't know what they're doing with that, but I feel like that's definitely what they're leaning towards. But overall, I thought that this movie was just awesome. Definitely one of my favorite movies of the year. The animation was stellar. The writing and characters were just so compelling. And just the action was just so brutal and just like, you couldn't keep your eyes off it. So yeah, I thought that this movie was just amazing. I loved it. Definitely in the top 5. Definitely in my top 5 favorite movies of the year. I thought it was awesome.